Hi everyone. So for Module 7, we talked about the importance of developing social intelligence in leaders and how it is so important that leaders should, leaders in order to be effective should have a good understanding of their social intelligence and emotional intelligence, because we see that when people are well aware of both areas, they tend to be more effective. And we see how, or we learn that in our readings, how people who are not in tune with their emotional intelligence really lack in that area, and it has an effect on how they communicate, relate to people, and ultimately how they lead. And I think that most of us, if not all, have had experiences with leaders who have been great, and then those leaders who have been not so great. And it all falls down to who they came off as a person, how they related to other people, and how they viewed other people, and showing like empathetic ways, and showing general concern for other people, or simply they had their power and their only concern was getting the job done and making themselves look good. I know I have had experience with both great leaders and not so great leaders. So when in the prompt it tells us to think about people we've worked with, and what characteristics fall under, or what that we can think of that can fall under a great leader, and then also the worst leaders we've worked for. And I just think of my great leaders. They were very supportive, they were very involved, they were very warm. And I say warm as in they showed their generosity, they showed how they were genuine, they showed how they cared for me as a person and who I am, more so than what I can do, and who I was just to the job. They cared more about who I was as a person. They took genuine concern into what I had going on, what I was interested in, my outside life. And like I mentioned in previous video, not so much that they got into my business, but they just got to know who I was. And I felt like when you take that step to get to know who I am as a person, more than who I am as an employee, then it just shows that you do have heart. And then the people that one person in particular that I can think of that was considered my worst boss. I've had a couple. I'll say two. I almost felt like they were out to get me. I didn't feel like they were on my side. And I'm the type of person, I work very hard. I'm very genuine. I'm very heartfelt. Like, I put my all in my job. And it blows me away, because sometimes I'm like, why don't people like I'm a good person. I'm so, genuine and things like that. And I'm always like, if you don't like me, then something must be really wrong with you, because I try to be so nice. But anyway, I just felt like they were out to get me. And, I felt like I was micromanaged. I felt like, they didn't trust me to be an expert in my job. I felt like they were just waiting for me to fail so that they could get rid of me. And it just blew my mind, because I felt like it was more so in a personal issue. And I just felt like they were sneaky and conniving. And I just didn't feel, I almost say I just didn't feel comfortable and almost didn't feel safe to be around them, just because I felt like they could, pull any kind of string and, manipulate situations in order to make us look bad. And I just felt like they didn't care. And at the end of the day, it was more so of getting the job done, and not so much of, what about my workers? What, how are they? Are they okay? Or, it was a very night and day experience. And I feel like, it does go back to, they really weren't emotionally aware, or aware of their emotional intelligence to relating to people. And I just feel like that made a big difference. Another thing that I would like to talk about is the section in chapter 9 about power, and, the acronym about power. It says where it comes from and how to get it. P is position power. O, opportunity power. W, wealth power. E, expertise power. And then R, relationship power. And I feel like I have had experience with several of these, and how people have been in power and they have abused it, and or they've gained a position because of who they were, or the name that they carried, or the amount of money that they were worth or could contribute. And I just felt like, I want to say, it's so unfair, because people who don't have that, don't have the wealth power, people who, aren't awarded the opportunity, or they don't know the right people or things like that, and they're not able to gain positions that they're highly qualified for because of those reasons, you just want to sit back and say, oh, that's not fair, that's not right. But at the end of the day, it does exist, and I've seen it so many times, especially recently here with politics. Election day was yesterday, and I just saw so many people locally, almost get cheated. I don't want to say cheated, but just wasn't done right, just because of the power that they held or didn't hold. A very close family member, she ran for office for a city council position, and the opponent that she campaigned against, he had held the seat for several years, and it was almost as if he felt entitled to the position and felt he did not have to campaign, citywide. He felt, after we looked at all the precincts, there were only 3 or 4 precincts that he had heavy votes in that really decided the election. And when we looked at those precincts, it was a predominantly one race. It was predominantly a high wealth, and we just felt like there weren't signs everywhere in every neighborhood. It was just in these